All right, let's dive into something really fascinating today. We're going to explore the world of words of affirmation as a love language. And we'll be uncovering insights from Dr. Gary Chapman's work on this. It's going to be super helpful, I think, for pretty much any relationship you can think of.
Yeah, absolutely. If you want to understand your partner better, or even just get better at communication in general, understanding how affirmation works can be, well, life-changing.
For sure. Now, if you haven't read Dr. Chapman's book, The Five Love Languages, just a quick recap.
Yeah.
He basically says that people experience and express love in totally different ways,
hmm
and words of affirmation are just one of those languages.
Mm.
But let me tell you, it's a powerful one.
Oh, it really is. There's that famous Mark Twain quote, I can live for 2 months on a good compliment.
Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe not literally, but it makes you think, right?
Yeah.
Like words really can have that big of an impact on us. It's almost like they feed our soul,
Yeah.
you know?
Absolutely. But, and this is a big but, the flip side is that negative words can be just as powerful, sometimes even more so. They can really do damage. Remember that saying? The tongue has the power of life and death.
Whoa, yeah. Solomon, right. Heavy stuff. It really highlights how important it is to use our words carefully, especially with the people we love.
Couldn't agree more. It's a huge responsibility. Okay, so diving into Dr. Chapman's work, he breaks down words of affirmation into two main types, or what he calls dialects. The first one is straightforward, direct compliments. We're talking real, genuine expressions of appreciation, not just, throwing around empty flattery.
Got it. So being specific and sincere, like what are some examples of that?
Well, Dr. Chapman gives some great examples, like, you look really sharp in that suit, or you make the best potatoes ever. But honestly, it's not about memorizing a bunch of lines. It's more about, like, really paying attention to what your partner does and then putting your appreciation into words that are, well, authentic to them.
Okay, I get it. So instead of a general, you look nice, it's more like that color really makes your eyes sparkle.
Exactly. It's those little details, those observations that show you're truly present and you really see them. Another thing, just remember, the goal here is to express genuine love, not to like manipulate your partner into doing something you want.
Right, right. That's a good distinction. Not a reward system, but genuine appreciation. Okay, but what about those situations where, like, your partner just isn't getting the hint? Dr. Chapman talks about this woman who was trying to get her husband to paint the bedroom, and he just, like, wouldn't do it.
Ah, yes, that's a classic example. And you know what Dr. Chapman's advice was? To stop nagging and instead start showering her husband with genuine praise for everything else he did, even if it was something as simple as taking out the trash.
Wow, really? That's interesting. It's, like, kind of counterintuitive, don't you think?
I know, right? But think about it. When you focus on the positive, even those little things, it creates a much more positive atmosphere, which is actually way more motivating than constantly harping on what they're not doing.
Yeah, that makes sense. So it's like you're building them up rather than tearing them down. Did it work? I mean, did he ever paint the bedroom?
He did. It's amazing how shifting our focus from complaints to genuine appreciation can be so much more effective. Okay, so we've talked about direct compliments, which is like the first dialect of words of affirmation.
Right. So what about the second one? What other ways can we use words to express love and affirmation?
The second one is all about encouraging words. Words that inspire courage, that support your partner's growth, that kind of thing. And this requires getting to know your partner on a deeper level,
Mm.
understanding their hopes, their fears, their aspirations. So you can offer encouragement that really hits home. You know what I mean?
Got it. So it's not just about saying things like, you can do it. It's about being in tune with their individual needs and goals.
That's it. Dr. Chapman tells this really cool story about a woman named Allison who always loved to write, but after having kids, she kind of put her passion on the back burner. But her husband, Keith, saw her talent and constantly encouraged her, telling her things like, you're an incredible writer. You should get this stuff published.
Wow, what a supportive husband. I bet that meant a lot to her.
Oh, it totally did. It gave her the confidence to really go for it. And guess what? She ended up getting her work published and even landed a book deal. It's crazy, right?
Mm-mm.
The power of encouraging words. I mean, they literally helped her unlock her full potential.
That's such a powerful example. But,
Yeah.
there's got to be a fine line between encouragement and pressure, right? Like, how do you make sure you're supporting your partner without pushing them into something they don't actually want to do? It's tricky.
It is. It really is. Like, let's say your partner wants to lose weight. How do you even approach that conversation? Instead of saying something like, honey, you really need to lose weight, which let's be honest, comes across as kind of judgmental.
Yeah, not very encouraging.
Right. You could say something like, listen, if you ever decide to go for it, I'm here to support you every step of the way. It's about empowering them, not dictating their choices.
Okay, yeah, that's much better. It's about being a source of support, not a source of pressure. And it's not just about the words themselves, right? It's also about the tone we use when we say them. Like, I love you said with tenderness versus I love you with that sarcastic edge.
Oh my gosh, yes. Tone of voice can totally change the meaning of a sentence, even if the words are the same. And even when things get tough, like if you're having a disagreement or expressing hurt feelings, it's still crucial to speak with kindness and that genuine desire to connect.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
It's like they say you can catch more flies with honey than with vinegar, right? But let's be real. Words can be tough even in loving relationships. We mess up. We say things we regret. That's where forgiveness comes in, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's got to be a huge part of this whole words of affirmation thing.
Absolutely. And that's a perfect segue into the next part of our conversation. We'll be right back to dive into the role of forgiveness and how it can help build even stronger, more loving relationships.
All right. So we're back and ready to dig into a topic that's, well, it's kind of crucial for any relationship, right? Forgiveness. Because let's face it, even when we're trying our best, we all mess up sometimes. And words, well, they can sting.
That's so true. And it's how we handle those moments, those times when someone's feelings get hurt, that can really make or break a relationship, especially when words of affirmation are involved.
Yeah, makes sense. It's like if you're holding on to resentment, those positive words, they just don't have the same impact,
They lose their power, absolutely. Dr. Chapman talks about how forgiveness is like the foundation, the bedrock of any strong and loving relationship.
Got it. So it's essential.
Yeah.
But I got to ask, how do we actually do it? How do we go from feeling hurt and resentful to actually forgiving someone? It's tough.
It is tough. But, Dr. Chapman makes this really important point. Forgiveness isn't about saying what happened was okay. It's about choosing to let go of that anger and resentment. It's about making a conscious decision to move forward together.
That makes sense. It's not about condoning bad behavior. It's about choosing to heal and move on. But sometimes it's easier said than done, Like, how do we actually shift from that blame game to a place of understanding?
Well, first of all, you got to remember that forgiveness, it's not a feeling, it's a choice, a commitment you make.
Okay, so it's a decision. But how do you actually make that decision when you're still hurting?
It starts with acknowledging the hurt, being honest about your feelings, but communicating them in a way that doesn't attack your partner. Instead of saying something like, you always do this, try saying, I felt really hurt when you said that. It opens the door for a more productive conversation.
Right. Expressing the impact without the blame. It's about understanding each other's perspectives.
Exactly. And forgiveness, it's not always a quick fix. It's a process. It takes time and effort and honestly willingness from both sides. But the rewards, they're worth it. It frees you from that baggage of the past.
Okay, so letting go of the past, creating space for love and trust to grow. Makes sense.
Yeah.
But speaking of moving forward, Dr. Chapman also talks about, how we communicate our needs in a relationship. And he makes this distinction between requests and demands.
Oh, yeah. That's huge. I think we've all been on the receiving end of a demand that felt more like an order than a request, right?
Oh, totally. It's that controlling vibe that just kills the mood. It's like, you need to clean the gutters this weekend versus, hey, would you mind cleaning the gutters sometime this weekend? I'd really appreciate it.
Exactly. It's night and day. One feels like an obligation. The other is like a loving gesture. And when we make demands, it creates this weird power dynamic. Like we're the parent and our partner is the child. And that doesn't do wonders for intimacy, does it?
Not really. It's more like a power struggle than a partnership.
Right. But when we make requests, we're acknowledging our partner's autonomy. Their right to choose. And that's where the magic happens.
Oh, I get it. Because then if they choose to do it, it's like a genuine act of love, not something they were forced into doing.
You got it. It's all about respect and understanding. Dr. Chapman shares this story about a couple, Bill and Betty Jo, who were, they were struggling. They were feeling disconnected, unappreciated. And Dr. Chapman realized that Bill's primary love language was words of affirmation, so he encouraged them to really focus on expressing verbal appreciation for each other.
Interesting. So basically give each other more compliments. Did it work?
Well, for Bill, it was like a light bulb went off. He started feeling valued, appreciated, which then made him, more loving towards Betty Jo. It's like it created this positive feedback loop.
I love that. The more she affirmed him, the more loving he became.
Yeah. But here's the thing. While Bill was totally thriving on the words of affirmation, it became clear that Betty Jo, well, her needs were a bit more complicated. The compliments were nice, but they weren't enough to make her truly happy.
Okay, so it sounds like her primary love language might have been something else entirely.
It's possible, and that's what's so important to remember. Just because one person thrives on words of affirmation, it doesn't mean their partner will have the same experience. We're all wired differently, right? We give and receive love in unique ways. And figuring out those nuances, well, that's the key to unlocking deeper connection in any relationship.
That makes total sense. So before we wrap things up, I think it would be helpful to recap what we've learned so far about words of affirmation. Where do we even begin? There's been so much good stuff. Okay, so we're back and ready to kind of, wrap up our deep dive into the world of words of affirmation. And man, there's a lot to take in, right? It's really its own language with all these little subtleties that can make such a difference in how we connect with each other.
Yeah, for sure. And like any language, it takes practice. You got to be willing to put in the effort to see things from your partner's point of view.
So before we say goodbye, maybe we could recap some key takeaways for our listeners, things they can start using right away to strengthen their relationship.
Sounds good to me. I think first and foremost, remembering that words have power, real power. They can lift someone up, encourage them, validate them. I mean, words can literally transform a relationship.
But they can also do the opposite, right?
Yeah.
Like if we're not careful, words can hurt, sometimes even more than physical pain.
Absolutely. It's like with great power comes great responsibility, right?
Haha. Yeah, exactly. The Spider-Man rule. So we got to choose our words carefully, especially when we're talking to the people we love. But it's not about just showering them with empty compliments, right?
Right. No, not at all. It's got to be genuine. It's about really paying attention, noticing the things they do, even the small things, and then like putting those observations into words. A simple thank you for making dinner, or I love how you always make me laugh. I mean, those little things can go a long way.
It's about making them feel seen, appreciated. What about encouraging words? We talk about how important those are, but it's not as simple as just saying, you can do it.
Right. You're right. It's got to be more specific, more tailored to their individual goals and aspirations. Like, think about what truly motivates them, what they're working towards, and then offer encouragement that speaks to that.
So let's say my partner's trying to get a promotion at work. Instead of a generic good luck, I might say something like, I see how hard you've been working, and I'm so proud of your dedication. You deserve this.
Now, that's a good example. It's specific, it acknowledges their efforts, and it expresses your belief in them. That kind of encouragement, it can make a world of difference.
Totally. And of course, we can't forget about forgiveness. We're all going to mess up sometimes. So learning how to communicate our hurt feelings and then, move through those rough patches together, that's super important.
Forgiveness is key. It creates that safe space, that foundation of trust, where both partners feel comfortable being vulnerable, being their true selves. And it allows you to let go of the past so you can focus on building a brighter future together.
So like clearing out the emotional clutter so that love has room to grow, that's beautiful. And last but not least, we talked about making requests, not demands. It's about treating your partner with respect, recognizing that they have their own needs and their own right to choose.
Exactly. When you approach your partner with respect, it just changes the whole dynamic. It's not a power struggle anymore, it's a collaboration.
It's like remembering that your partner isn't an extension of you. They're their own person with their own thoughts and feelings and dreams.
Beautifully said. And sometimes their love language might be different from yours, and that's okay. The key is to be open to learning, to adapting your communication style to meet their needs.
And that's when the magic happens, right? When we really learn how to speak each other's love language.
I love that. It's like we're unlocking this whole new level of intimacy and understanding. So to our listeners, I want to leave you with this question. Think about what we've talked about today and ask yourself, how can you use words of affirmation more intentionally in your own relationships? What actions can you take? What words can you speak to create that more loving and supportive environment for the people you care about? It's worth thinking about.
It is. And hey, if this whole love languages thing has piqued your interest, there's so much more to explore. Words of affirmation is just one of 5 love languages. There's also acts of service, receiving gifts, quality time, and physical touch.
Each one offers a different perspective on how we give and receive love. And trust me, it's fascinating stuff. You might learn something new about yourself, about your partner, about your friends and family. It's all about connection.
I love that. Well, that's all the time we have for today's deep dive into the world of words of affirmation. We hope you found it insightful and maybe even a little bit inspiring.
Until next time, may your words be kind, your compliments genuine, and your relationships thrive.
Happy affirming, everyone.